Hello student, we are going to start Science and Technology Part 1 today. It contains following topics. First topic is gravitation. Second one is periodic classification of element. Third is chemical reaction and equation. Fourth one is effect of electric current. In fifth topic we are going to cover heat, in which we are having conduction, convection, radiation. Sixth topic is reflection of light, which is known to you. Seventh topic contains lens. Eighth topic metallurgy, which contains properties of material. Then we are going to continue ninth topic, that is carbon components. And last topic is space mission. So like that syllabus we are going to cover in the Science and Technology 1. Now I will start the gravitation, that is first topic. Summary of that lesson is definition of gravitation, in which we are going to study definition and Newton's law of motion, which is related with the gravitation. Then circular motion and centripetal force. Depending upon centripetal force, we are having Kepler's law. Kepler has that three laws. With the help of Kepler law, that Newton's universal law of gravitation is explained, or that formula is prepared. After that, we are considering acceleration due to gravitational force of the earth. So all of you are aware with that. Example of Newton's apple. So that is depends upon that acceleration due to gravity. Then we are having free fall. After that, we are concluding with the help of escape velocity and that potential energy we contain. Now let us start with our topic. Before going to that, you are aware with that our motto. SVG's motto is student oriented. We are having our slogan Shika Samradha. We are continuously working in educational field from last 25 years. And our hope, our aim is we should be always number one in our work. Guys, you are aware with the Newton. Newton is one of the great scientists. He had given so many inventions and different laws. All of you are aware with the three laws of motion, which is studied in previous year. So I will just review that three laws. Newton's first law of motion is, it states that an object will remain at rest or in uniform motion in a straight line unless acted upon by the external force. It may be seen as a statement about inertia, that object will remain in their state of motion unless a force acts to change the motion. So it means that, so whenever any body is kept on the table, it remains it steady state. Otherwise, if it is in motion, it remains in motion until external force, that force is pull type or push type, we are not applying on that one. So it will not change its state or it will not change its motion. That is the first law of motion. Then second law of motion is force is equal to mass into acceleration. That is the simple form. Whenever we are applying force on any body, So it will move fast if that force is in the direction of the motion. Otherwise, it will move slow if it is working in opposite direction of the motion. That is Newton's second law, and it is represented mathematically. F, that is force, is equal to mass of that body into acceleration. Acceleration means change in velocity. That is Newton's second law. Now we are considering Newton's third law. That is well known example for you and me also. What is Newton's third law? Whenever there is action, you will get the reaction. I am always giving the example. When we slap, then that opposite side will also slap. So that is Newton's third law of motion. Otherwise, whenever we are throwing a ball on the wall, so immediately that ball will be reflect with the same speed. That is Newton's third law of motion. Actions and reactions are same in opposite direction. Now we are considering the next point. That next point is, so we are considering force. What is the force? All of you are aware with the force. Then what is the force? So that force we are applying on the object, so that object will dip or move, or stress will be developed in that object. So that force is two types of forces are there. One is push type and second one is pull type. So you are aware with that forces. So with respect to that, we are considering gravitational force. What is the gravitational force? All of you are aware with that gravitational force. That is the force due to the gravity. But now we are considering the example with respect to that scientific method. Otherwise, we are considering scientific definition of that gravitational force. Gravitation is the force of attraction between two objects in the universe. Otherwise, it will be stated, or it can be stated, gravitation may be attraction of object by the earth. Now we are considering the example given by Sir Isaac Newton. Apple falls from the tree on the ground. He wanted why all apples falling vertically downward and not at the angle to the vertical. Why does they not fly up in the horizontal direction? That things comes in the Isaac Newton's memory. That's why he is invented on that one, and he is concluded that after much thought he came to conclusion that earth must be attracting the apple towards itself, and this attractive force must be directed towards the center of the earth. So that is called as gravitational force. Otherwise, if body is dropped from the certain height, it falls downward due to the earth gravity. Gravity may be attraction between object in outer space. That example is not applicable for any body or any ball. For apple, if we are considering uh, the satellite in this space which are rotating around the earth, otherwise which are rotating around the sun, so that rotation is due to attraction between earth and moon, otherwise attraction between sun and planet. Due to that, you will get the rotation. Now with the help of this figure, that idea or that concept will be clear. See that that earth is there. So like that smart boy or smart girl sitting under the apple tree, as like Isaac Newton, that apples are there. One of apple drop down on the earth. Instantly your memory start to thinking why that apple is not moving upward. It is coming downward. It is falling on the earth. Otherwise, why it is not moving in horizontal direction? After the observation or the study, so you comes to know that is due to gravitational force, and that example is represented that in the pictorial form. Now, so as we discussed previous point, you are having forces, that any object is there. On that object, a force is push or pull type. An object resulting from object's interaction with another object. Whenever there is an interaction between two objects, there is a force upon each of the object, and that forces are pull and push type. Now we are considering motion. So you are aware with that motion. Whenever force is exerted on that object will move in forward or reverse direction. So that motion is considered as a linear motion. Simultaneously, we are having another motion. That motion is called as circular motion. A motion is change in the position of an object over a time. With respect to that time, that object will change its position from one place to another place. Either it is in the linear form, otherwise in the circular form. That is called as motion. Motion is mathematically described in terms of displacement. You are aware with the displacement. Then distance. Distance means from one place to another place. We are saying that. So one object is displaced by 1 meter. Means that distance, initial point and final point, the difference is 1 meter. Then distance, again that is it is measured in meter. Velocity, that is speed. Meter per second means velocity is a meter per second. Acceleration, that is rate of change of velocity, and rate of change of velocity is given in the form of meter per second square. So similarly, we are having speed and time. As there is no absolute frame of reference, absolute motion cannot be determined. So due to that motion, if object is rotating in circular orbit, so you will get that two forces. One is centripetal force, second one is centrifugal force. Whenever that object is rotating in circular direction, at each position it will changes its direction, and one force is there which will be attract that object towards the center. That force is called as centripetal force. If that force is exerting away from the center, that is called as centrifugal force. Equal and opposite forces are there. Both are equal as well as opposite. That's why you will get that centripetal force and centrifugal forces are acting on the object. Now we are considering that circular motion and centripetal force. As a object move in circular direction, it is constantly changing its direction. For object in uniform circular motion, the net force and subsequent acceleration is directed inwards. Circular motion requires net inward or centripetal force. Without a net centripetal force, an object cannot be traveled in circular direction. With respect to that, we are having Kepler's law. Planetary motion had been observed by the astronomers since ancient time. Before Galileo, all observations of the planetary positions were made with naked eye. But in say 16th century, a lot of data were available for planetary position and motion. That's Kepler studied these data and he concluded that following things. Kepler's first law. The orbit of planet is an ellipse with the sun at one of the focus. Here, so whatever satellite is there that is rotating around the sun, or planet is there that is rotating around the sun, it followed the elliptical part. So first of all, I will give the short description or information regarding the ellipse. All of you are aware with the ice cream. So that ice cream is provided in the form of cone. Otherwise, ice cream is given in the cone. So if you are considering cone and you are taking cross section or you are cutting that cone in inclined position, so whatever shape you are getting, that is as like ellipse. That ellipse is having two centers. It is called as focus. So as like you are aware with that circle is having one center, and with respect to that center we are having circumference. But in case of ellipse, you are having two focus, and from that focus, so on any point of that ellipse, the distance, suppose here we are considering AF1 plus AF2 is equal to BF1 plus BF2 is equal to CF1 plus CF2. That distance is always equal. So that Kepler first law states that the orbit of a planet is an ellipse with the sun at one of its focus. Means suppose you are having F1 and F2 are two focus. On one of its focus, that sun is considered. And with respect to that, the orbit of planet is an ellipse with the sun at one of its focus. As like you are drawing a circle with respect to center C and radius R. Then Kepler's second law is there. All of you are getting? The line joining the planet and sun sweeps equal area in equal interval of time. That is given in next figure. Just I will explain the next figure. Now consider the figure. There are points represented on the orbit or elliptical path. These are A, B, C, D, E, F. Now that distance traveled A to B is considered as a 1. Distance traveled that planet C to D, that is considered as a 2. Distance traveled by that planet E to F is considered as a 3. You are having 3 areas. That area 1, area 2, area 3. That radius is different. Otherwise, from the sun to that point, that distance are different. If you are considering time interval t, it means that t is equal to, suppose you are considering 1 hour. In 1 hour, that planet or satellite will travel A to B. Otherwise, in 1 hour, time is same. That travel C to D. In 1 hour, it will travel E to F. But whenever you are considering or you are measuring the area, that area 1, area 2, area 3, all three areas are equal. Means the line joining the planet and the sun sweep equal area in equal interval of time. Means in equal interval of time, that area covered by that planet is equal. That is Kepler's second law. And that laws are prepared from the data available in 16th century. That is concluded from that data. Now Kepler's third law. Kepler's third law. If you are observing that Kepler's third law, the square of its period of revolution around the sun is directly proportional to cube of the mean distance of planet from the sun. Suppose we are considering r is the average distance of the planet. Now I will consider that figure. Suppose distance S to A, sun to A. In between A and B, we are considering small a, b, c, d, e, f, g, like that distance. And we are adding all these distance, S to small a, S to small b, S to c, like that all the distance we are adding. And at the last, we are taking average of that distance. And that average distance is considered as a r. R is the average distance of the planet from the sun, and t is the time or period, means whatever time. There we are considering that 1 hour means 60-minute time is there, and that distance is considered as a r. So that is directly proportional to time square is directly proportional to cube of that distance. Means we are considering t square is proportional with r cube. That is the distance we are considering. If you are writing it mathematically, so you will get that there t square is directly proportional to r cube. T square is equal to r cube is equal to k, that is the proportionality constant k. That is Kepler's third law. That is Kepler's third law, and it is given for the orbitary motion of the planet around the sun. Otherwise, if you are considering arbitrary motion of the moon around the earth, either satellite or planet rotating around the sun or the earth, that is considered, and with respect to that Kepler is given that three laws. Now I will review that. This is important one, that's why I will review that again. The orbit of a planet is an elliptical with the sun at one of its focus. It means that Kepler's first law is there. That Kepler's first law states that the orbit of a planet is an ellipse with the sun at one of its focus or foci. One it is same. Then Kepler's second law, the line joining the planet and sun sweeps equal area in equal interval of time. Here you are having 1, 2, 3. These are three areas. All three areas are equal if that distance travel from A to B is 1 hour, C to D is 1 hour, E to F is 1 hour. Now Kepler's third law. The square of its period means t square of revolution around the sun is directly proportional to cube of the mean distance of planet from the sun. Like that, you are having t square divided by r cube is equal to constant, that is k. We are considering these are the Kepler's law or Kepler's three laws we are considering. Now we are having universal law of gravitation. All of you are now aware with that gravitation. And what is gravitation? It is a force of attraction towards the center of earth. Otherwise, it is also stated that is the attraction between two bodies. The universal law of gravitation states that, now see that is written, every object in a universe attracts every other object with a force is directly proportional to product of mass and inversely proportional to square of distance between them. Just I will explain that. Suppose you are having two body, that body A and body B. Body A is having mass m, capital M. Body B is having mass small m. In between A and B, small distance d is there. We are considering m, capital M, small m, that force of attraction F in between that, and distance is d. Now with respect to that universal law of gravity, every object in universe attract every other body with a force which is directly proportional to product of mass and inversely proportional to square of distance. Now what is the product of mass? That body A is having mass capital M, body B is having mass small m. So according to that definition, we are considering that m1 m into m. In your book, that A is considered as a m1 and B is considered as m2. That doesn't matter. So product of a mass, that is m into m. F is directly proportional to m into m. Then second part of that one is, so F is inversely proportional to square of distance. What is the distance? That distance is d. And square of that distance is nothing but inversely proportional. What is meant by inversely proportional? Inversely proportional means 1 divided by that distance. Now you will get that two equation. F is directly proportional to m into m. F is inversely proportional to 1 divided by d square. Combine that two equation. So you will get F is proportional to m into m divided by d square. Now you are aware with that we are considering proportionality constant. And that proportionality constant is given by, F is equal to G into m divided by d square, where F is force of attraction, capital M is mass of body A, small m is mass of body B, small d is distance between two bodies, that is considered from the center of each body, and F is force of attraction. And where capital G is a proportionality constant, that is called as universal gravitation constant. Now after cross multiplying, you will get that F into d square, because d square is at denominator. So from right hand side to left hand side, so you are going to transfer. So you will get F into d square. F into d square is equal to capital G into capital M into small m. Therefore G is equal to F into d square divided by m into m. The SI unit of universal gravity constant G is Newton meter square kg raised to minus 2, or it is also called as Newton meter square per kg square, and its value is 6.673 into 10 raised to 11 Newton meter square kg raised to minus 2. That is the universal law of gravitation. So again I will repeat that. The universal law of gravitation states that every object in the universe attract every other object with a force which is directly proportional to product of masses, and that force is inversely proportional to square of the distance between them, distance between them, where F is force of attraction, M is mass of body A, M is mass of body B, then D is distance between two successive bodies, and capital G is universal gravitational constant, that is with respect to proportionality, and its value is nothing but 6.673 into 10 raised to minus 11 Newton meter square per kg square, that you will get, because here we are considering that masses are constant. Now, uniform circular motion. Magnitude of centripetal force. What is meant by uniform circular motion? Uniform means constant. Uniform circular motion. If object is rotating with uniform speed, that is called as uniform circular motion. Magnitude of centripetal force. Then we are calculating magnitude of centripetal force with respect to that. Again, you are studied that 3 Kepler's laws, and with respect to that 3 Kepler's law, we are going to calculate that next things. Now, see that, consider an object moving in a circle with constant speed. It means that one object is there as like our earth, that is rotating around the sun. Similarly, if you are considering a weight, otherwise stone, and we are tying a thread to that stone and keeping in one of your hand, you are start to rotating. What happens? That object start to rotate around your hand. So like that, object is moving in circle with constant speed. Suppose it is having constant speed. We have seen earlier that such motion is possible only when the object is constantly excited upon by a force directed toward the center of the circle. It means that object is rotating in a circular path. It means centripetal force is acting on that object and it is towards the center of circle. This force is called as centripetal force. This force is called as centripetal force. Now see that if m is the mass of the object and phi is the velocity or speed of that object, r is the radius of the circle, then it can be shown that this force is equal to, F is equal to mv square. M is equal to mass of that object, v is the velocity of that object, and that is nothing but speed. R is equal to radius of the circle. F is equal to mu square divided by r. We know that speed is equal to distance traveled divided by time taken. Now consider an object moving in a circular path at constant speed. We have seen that earlier. Such motion is possible only when the object is constantly acted upon by force directed towards the center of the circle. So you will get that F is equal to mu square, and speed is equal to distance travel divided by time. We are considering now that distance travel. What is the distance travel? If it is having circular motion, that circumference of that circle is nothing but distance travel. And distance travel in the arbitrary motion is considered as a 2 pi r. That is circumference of that circle. Then divided by time taken. That time taken is considered, or period is considered as a t. Now here you will form the equation with respect to that. 2 pi r is the circumference divided by t, period of revolution or time taken for that revolution. You are aware with that again. F is equal to mv square divided by r. That is the formula we are derived in previous topic. So you will get that mv square divided by r is equal to, there v is equal to 2 pi r divided by t, that value. Substitute that value in that formula. M into v is 2 pi r divided by t bracket square, and at denominator you are having r. Now squaring that one, m as it is, that 2 square, that is nothing but 4. That's why you will get that 4m pi square r square divided by t square. Now that f is equal to mu square divided by r, that is at denominator. That's why that r get cancelled. So you will get that 4m pi square r divided by t square. Therefore f is equal to 4m pi square divided by r square into r cube divided by t square. According to Kepler's third law, t square divided by r cube is equal to k. That's why we are rearranging that term. So you will get that f is equal to 4m pi square divided by r square k. But 4m pi square divided by k is equal to constant. That's why that force F, that force F, you will get that equal to constant into 1 divided by r square. Means F is proportional with 1 divided by r square. It means that Newton concluded that centripetal force, which is a force acting on a planet, centripetal force which is a force acting on a planet and is responsible for its circular motion, that centripetal force is responsible for only circular motion, must be inversely proportional to square of distance between the planet and the sun. Between the planet and the sun. Now see that F is proportional to 1 divided by r square, means that is inversely proportional to radius of that circle. Newton identified this force with force of gravity and hence postulated the inverse square law of a gravitation. Inverse square law of a gravitation. Okay guys, we will conclude here and I will give the details of that one in next lecture. We are going to start in next lecture from free form. Okay, thank you.